In this video, we're going to take a look at synthetic substitution. So when we were in Algebra 1 and we were given an expression like this and told to plug in a value for x, we would do it something like this. So we would rewrite it, and anywhere we see an x, we would put in what we want to plug in for that. So here it would be -1. So I plugged in -1 for x wherever I saw x. If I type this into a calculator, I would get 15. So this synthetic substitution is another way of doing that same thing, except I think it's a little easier than if you didn't have a calculator. So the first thing you want to do is rewrite what you're given in standard form and use placeholders for any missing terms. So for example, I look at my highest exponent. My highest exponent is 3. So I want to make sure I have all my exponents in descending order. So I should have x to the third, 3, 2, 1, and a constant. So even if there isn't a number without a variable, we have to include a 0 for our constant. Okay, so I'm going to write this in order, and starting with -10x to the third plus 3x squared plus 2x plus 4. So looking at this first one, we do not have any missing terms, so I don't need a placeholder. My exponents are 3, 2, 1, and a constant. Okay, so now we can start with the synthetic substitution. For setting this up, you draw an L shape. This -1 will go on the outside here, so just -1. Across the top, I'm going to just use the coefficients of each term, so I wouldn't include any of the variables when I do this. So the first one, I have -10. Also, it's important to space these numbers out enough because sometimes in your calculation, you'll get some longer numbers, and if you put your numbers too close together, one, you can miss adding the right numbers to the right results to get the right results, and two, if I put this 3 too close to this 10, I could confuse this to be -103. So I want to make sure I space it out. 2 and 4. So it's spaced out. Okay, and for the first one, the number just comes down. We don't do anything to that number. So that's our first term, and it comes down. And then we multiply it to the number on the outside. So -10 times -1 is +10. And we would write it right up across here. Okay. From here, we add. So when we're inside the L, we add our terms together. 3 plus 10 is 13. And then I repeat the same thing. So I do 13 times -1 is -13. I put that number up here. 2 minus 13 is -11. And then repeat again. -11 times -1 will give me a +11. And then 4 plus 11 will give me 15. So it's just that same pattern of repeating and addition. Sorry, multiplication and addition. So this is f of -1 equals 15. So we don't leave our answer in this table like this. We will rewrite it over here. F of -1 equals 15, and that is our answer. So we did get the same thing when we plugged in the x, so that can confirm that we have the right answer here. Another way we can check our work is by using the calculator. So in class, I'll show you how to do it with Desmos. If you're using the graphing calculator, you would go to y equals, and we're going to type in this equation here. So you don't need the f of x, that's the same thing as y. So starting with 3x squared, I do 3, x is the number next to alpha squared plus 2x minus 10 x to the third plus 4. Okay, so I have that all typed in. And then we want to go to table here. So I would go second graph. And now I have the table of values, so I can see what any number plugged in for x, what my y value will be. And for this one, we had -1. And this just confirms when I plug in -1 for x, I should get 15.